Implementing DHCP. Now first, what is DHCP and what are the benefits of using the DHCP? Now first, DHCP is what? It is to provide IP configuration to clients. Now IP addresses, we have two options where we can configure the IP address to the client machine. So if we want to connect the machine to the network, so what we need is a network connectivity and also the IP address. Now we have two options to configure the IP address. One is the manual, that means static. We can configure the IP address statically. Statically, that means we configured manually. The second option, we have to configure the IP address dynamically. Now dynamically, that means the IP address will be given and configured from DHCP server. Now if we want to configure static IP address, that is good, but it is good for a small number of machines. If suppose we are having a small number of machine, 10-20 machines, we can afford to configure the IP addresses manually. But if we have a large number of machines, large number of devices which we want to configure the IP addresses, then it will become difficult for us. That means if we suppose we have 500 machines, then configuring the IP information to every machine manually, it can be a different task, a difficult task. What will be the problem if you try to do it manually? So problem will come like first you may assign the same IP again and again because you don't remember what you have done, what you have configured. So what you can do, you can reuse the IP addresses again and again. Now what happen if you use the same IP address to other machines? Then what? It will be conflict. It will do the conflict. For example, I have configured the IP address to one machine, then I am going keep configuring the machine to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And after 300 machines, I am using this. I am start using the same IP address. Then what happen? It will become conflict. And when I configure the same IP address, that machine will show that confliction. It says that the same IP is already exist, and then I have to find that machine who's having the same IP address. So now it can be a very difficult task. Now the solution is what? Solution is like I can do what? I can do one more thing. I can take a book and write down all the IP addresses which I am giving. Now this way I cannot use the same IP address again and again because I am using it and I am writing it on the book. I am writing it on my notebook that this IP I have given to this machine, this IP I have given to this machine. It will increase my work, but still it will save me to reuse the IP addresses. But it can make another problem. It can waste the IP addresses. Remember, IP addresses are very important, very less remaining. IPv4 addresses are finished. Public addresses are very less. Now if you waste IP addresses, then it can be a problem. So this way, if I try, then it can waste the IP addresses. How it will waste the IP addresses? Suppose I have given IP address to machines and I have write down into my book that these machines have given these IP addresses. Now suppose that machine was got corrupted or destroyed, or the hardware administrators, they do what? They remove the machine, they throw the machines out. Now me, my notebook, I know that the IP address is given, but that machine is not using the IP addresses. The machine has removed, it was destroyed. Now I will not use the same IP address to other machine because I feel like I have given the IP addresses, but that IP address is not in use. Those machines which was using the IP addresses, now they are not there, but still for me the IP address is in use. So that IP address will be wasted. So DHCP server also also save you for wasting the IP addresses also. DHCP do what? It will provide the IP configuration and also it provide it on lease basis. That means it will not provide IP addresses, IP configuration addresses to clients for the lifetime. It will provide it only for the specific time, that means lease time. That means after the lease time expired, it will do what? The IP will be available again on the DHCP to provide to give the IP to another machine. It will be available after the lease time expires. So two problems: manually IP, giving manually IP, it will be difficult for us, and also when you try to give manual IP addresses, you can waste the IP addresses. So DHCP save us from these two problems and the other problems. Now DHCP is basically a standard protocol of TCP IP protocol suite. It's a protocol, and when you use this when you configure the protocol on the server, it becomes a DHCP server. So benefits of using the DHCP is to reduce the complexity and amount of administrative work by using the automatic IP configurations. So because we are using the automatic configuration, it will reduce the administrative work. Now these are the different, we can say, automatic and manual IP addresses. Automatic IP addresses supplies IP addresses automatically, but in manual, type IP addresses manually. You have to type the IP addresses manually. In automatic, ensures the correct configuration information because we configure it in centralized location, like configured it into DHCP, and that will be configured, that will be given automatically to all the clients, and that will be correct. But typing incorrect IP addresses is possible. So it is possible in manually, we can type the incorrect addresses also. Not only now, when you configure the IP address, it is not like you are configuring only the IP addresses. You have to configure the IP address IP address for the machine, subnet mask for the machine. Then you have to type the gateway, default gateway IP address, DNS server IP address, alternate DNS server IP address. Now, if you configure all of these things for every machine manually, then you can make mistake. You can type a wrong gateway. You can type a wrong DNS IP. Then it will become a problem. Now in automatic, there is no problem like this because every configurations will be sent from centralized server, that is DHCP server. Then updates client configuration automatically. Then it will also update the client configuration automatically. Now for example, our DNS server IP changed, our gateway IP changed. Now automatically in this DHCP server, when you configure automatically, so you just have to change it into DHCP server, and it will update the configuration to all the clients automatically. But if you have used manual IP addresses, then what you have to communicate, it can result in possible communication and network issues. That means it can be a problem because those machines which is not using this new gateway, they will get a problem of communication. Then you have to change each and every machine gateway address manually. In automatic, it eliminates the common source of network problem, but in manually, frequent computer moves increase administrative efforts. That means when you move the machine from one subnet to other subnet, then you have to change the IP addresses according to that subnet also, and it can be a problem. Then IPv6 is also supported by Microsoft DHCP services. Now in Microsoft in Server 2016, IPv6 is also supported. That means we can configure IPv6 addresses on DHCP servers also. Now how DHCP allocate the addresses? Very simple. DHCP servers allocate the addresses to all the clients, that means whatever the device wanted to have an IP address and the device asked for the IP addresses, it will give the IP address to every machine who asks for the IP address. That means if suppose these are non-DHCP clients, they are configured with the static IP addresses, and there is a DHCP clients who is configured the IP address automatically. That means configure IP address from DHCP server. Then what happened? First IP configuration from the DHCP server will give it to the client, that is, it is called the lease generation, and after the lease period is expired, then it will do what? Lease renewal. When the lease period, that means the time duration the IP address is given to the client, it will expire, then what it will do? It will renew the IP address, it will renew the lease. And lease renewal, it can give the same IP address or it can give another IP address also. It is possible in DHCP in DHCP network, it is possible that the IP address for the client can change. That means first time when this client asks for the IP address, so it has given some IP address to this client, but the lease time, when the lease time expires, then it will re-ask for the IP address, the same IP address. But if the IP address is given to some other machine, then it will give the another IP to this client. So IP addresses can be changed. So how DHCP lease generation works? So DHCP uses the DORA process to do this. It is called DORA. DORA means DORA. It uses the DORA process to provide the IP information to the client. And remember, I said the client who asks for the IP addresses. So for example, we have these servers. We have two servers here. We can have two servers of DHCP servers for the redundancy. Now we have the client here who wants to get the IP address from DHCP. So first client will do what? It will send the DHCP discover packet. Now as you see, the packet is broadcasted. So DHCP client broadcasts the discover packet. Discover, DHCP discover. Discover means D. This DHCP discover packet is a broadcast packet, and it will go to everyone, all the machines within the network, but nobody will reply, only the DHCP servers will reply, and they will reply with the offer. So D is for the discover in the DORA process, and the O is for offer, DO. Now DHCP servers will get the DHCP discover packet. It is asking for the IP addresses, IP address configuration. Now remember, in the discover packet, it is going broadcast because our client don't know that what IP is of the DHCP server. That means DHCP server has which IP addresses. It does not know. It does not know what network it is. So DHCP, the client does not have any information about the network, about the DHCP server IP, nothing. And that is why it will send the broadcast packet to everyone. So it goes to everyone and it will reach to everyone, but no one will reply, only the DHCP server will reply. And DHCP server will reply with offer. And that offer is also goes as a broadcast to everyone. Now it will reach to everyone, but this client will accept it because it has sent the broadcast. Now this offer means what? DHCP servers are offering the IP address which is available in their database. Now that database, that available database, we will create, we will configure in DHCP. We will configure in the DHCP that these are the IP addresses available to lease. So the range of the IP addresses we will configure in DHCP server, that these addresses are available. We want to give these addresses to client. So in those lease range, the range of those lease addresses, if any IP address is available, that IP address will be offered to the client. Now the client will see that offer and then it will say, I want to get this IP address. So client will send request. Now the request will go to the servers. It is also a broadcast, goes to everyone, but only the server will respond. It will say the okay, I will acknowledge it, and now you can use this IP address. It is a request from the client that I want to use this IP address which is offered by the DHCP server. Now the DHCP server will say that you can use this IP address. I am acknowledging the IP address. Now acknowledging means what? It will note down in the database of the DHCP server that this IP address is given to this client and it is given for this lease time. So the IP address information, that means the IP address given to the machine name, and then it will say that this is the lease time, and then it will note all the information and then it will send the acknowledgement to the client that you are getting this IP address and now you can use this IP address. This is the acknowledgement from the server, and this is acknowledgement. This acknowledgement is coming from server 1 specifically because this server is providing the IP address to this client. So this is the whole process of giving the IP address to the client. It is called DORA also. DORA means D is for the discover, O is for offer, and R is for request, and acknowledgement for A is for acknowledgement. So it is also called DORA process for the DHCP. Now, when the lease period expires, then how the DHCP client will renew the IP address? So for renewing the IP address, again, when the DHCP client reaches the 50% of the lease time duration, when the 50% is expired, then the client will do what? It will send the request. It will send the request for DHCP to the DHCP server. Now it knows who is the DHCP server for it. So it knows the DHCP server IP address, because now it has got the IP address from that DHCP server. So it will send a request directly to the DHCP server. So at the time of the 50%, it will send the request. But if suppose it is not the server is not aware or not available, then again it will send a request for the DHCP server. Remember, it is sending the request, start sending a request within the 50% of the lease time duration, because maybe the server is not available. So after the 100% time expires, and if the server is not available, then it will be a problem for the client, and it will go back to not having the IP addresses. So it can go back now, because it is Windows machine, so it will go back to APIPA if it is not getting the IP address from the server. So it starts sending the request before the lease is expired. Now the server gets the request, then it will send the acknowledging packet that okay, I am getting your request, your time is about to 50% expiry. Now when the 87% lease time has duration has expired, so the client will send what? If the client fails to renew its lease after the 50% of the lease duration has expired, the DHCP lease renewal process begins again after 87.5% of the lease duration has expired. So if suppose at the time of 50% expired, the server is not available to renew the lease, then it will try again on this 87.5% lease time expiration. Then after the 100% expiration, if the client fails to renew its lease after the 87.5% of the lease expired, the DHCP lease generation process starts over again with the DHCP client broadcasting a discover packet. Now the 100% is expired. Now it will start again sending the discover packet to DHCP servers to get the IP address, because now the lease time is expired. Now if in this case also, if the server is not available, then the client will go back to APIPA address. It will assign itself an APIPA address, and if the server is available, then it will get the IP address from the server. That means a new IP address from the server. Now deploying the DHCP. First, for deploying the DHCP in our server 2016, we have to install the role. We have to install the DHCP role by using the add and remove role features in the server manager, or even we can use the add and windows feature command from the PowerShell also. So first we have to install the role either from the graphically server manager, or we can use the PowerShell command add windows features also. Then the server hosting DHCP requires a static IP address. That is what the requirement, because the DHCP itself need to have a static IP address. DHCP itself cannot get the IP address from itself. Then after the installing the role, then what we have to do? We have to do the post installation task. Now the post installation task include creating the DHCP security groups. These DHCP security groups will provide the option for managing the DHCP servers. We can assign the permission to some users who can manage the DHCP server. Remember, if suppose if we configure the domain, we have only one administrator account who has a right to configure the whole Active Directory domain, but that only account cannot be manage everything. So in a big organizations, what we have separate administrators, we have separate persons, we have separate administrators who's doing separate things. So for DHCP, for managing the DHCP, we can have a different administrator who can only manage the DHCP. So for that we can use this security group. That means we can create a user account and then we can make that user a member of these security groups, so that they can only manage the DSCP services and they cannot manage anything else. So creating the DSCP security groups, it will need to create two groups. That means one for the admin and one for the read-only admin. So one admin will be admin DSCP admin group. A member of that group, they can manage the DSCP server fully, and the read-only admin group users, member of that group, can only can only read the administrator, read the DSCP. That means they can only monitor the DSCP services. They cannot do any changes. So for doing the changes, they can inform the DSCP admin group. Now the administrator account can do everything, but we have to create these groups. This is the post-installation task. After that, restarting the DSCP server services. So after that, we have to restart the DSCP services, and then we have to authorize the DSCP server in Active Directory services. Now we can use the DSCP servers without the Active Directory domain also. If suppose we don't have an Active Directory domain, we have just a workgroup environment where we have 50-20 machines, then we can still use the DSCP server to provide the IP configuration to the users. But if we are a member of DSCP, if we are having a domain, and if we are under the domain and we are a member of the domain, Active Directory domain, then we have to make the DSCP server authorized for the domain. So we have to make the server authorized for the domain to provide the IP addresses for the domain clients. If suppose we have not authorized the domain DSCP server in the domain, then it cannot provide the IP addresses to the client. It is not. It is actually out of security. Because of the security of the domain, it cannot provide IP addresses to the client of Active Directory domain. So we have to do this. We have to authorize the DSCP server. We have to create the DSCP security groups, and these are the all post-installation tasks. Now this post-installation task, it will do automatically. We don't have to create it manually. We don't have to create the groups manually. We don't have to authorize the the domain DSCP server to the domain or manually. That option will come after installing the role. So when we install the role, after the role the installation is finished, then it will ask you to configure the post-installation task. So when you select it, it will ask for the options and it will do this. It will create the security groups and it will authorize the domain, authorize the DSCP server in the domain. Now when I say when the DSCP server is not authorized, so it cannot provide the IP addresses to the client. So DSCP authorization register the DSCP server services in the Active Directory domain to support DSCP clients. Now for example, we have two servers here, server 1 and server 2. Now DSCP server 1 checks with the domain controller to obtain the list of authorized DSCP servers. Now first, to provide the IP addresses to the client of the domain, DSCP server has to check that whether it is authorized or not. Now if the server is authorized, then it will get the response that you are authorized server. The DSCP services will start accepting the request. Now if the DSCP server like server 2 is sending and it is checking that whether it is authorized for the domain or not, and if it is not authorized, then it cannot send the DSCP service does not start and it will not accept the request from the clients. So only the authorized server can accept the request from the DSCP server, DSCP clients. Now the request, because the request is a broadcast, so it will go to both the servers, but only one server 1 which is authorized can respond and give the IP addresses. Now how we can install the role and how we can configure it. Let's see how we can configure the DSCP server in our Windows server. Now this is my domain controller, server 1. It is having the Active Directory domain services. It is already having a DNS services, and also I can configure the DSCP services on this same server. But it is not recommended to configure everything on the single server. So Microsoft recommend that you should use different servers for different services. So for example, this server is already using the Active Directory and DNS. So we can use the other server, other member server, we can configure it as a DHCP server. So what I am going to do, I am going to configure the server 2, which is a member of our domain, as a DHCP server. So I am going to install the role in server 2, which is our member of this domain. Now this is our server 2, and on this server what we are going to do, we are going to install DHCP services here. So first we have to install the services role here. I will go to manage, add and remove roles and features, and then role based and feature based installation for this server, server 2, and then here we will select the DHCP server role. So we have to click on it, and with that all the management tools are going to install. So I will say yes. So DHCP server, what is the full of DHCP? It is Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Then this server enables you to centrally configure, manage and provide temporary IP addresses and related information for clients. Remember, it is saying temporary because it is on lease. It is giving the IP addresses information only on lease basis. So we'll go next here. We don't need any other features, so I'll go next. So this is what the DHCP server information, it is saying this is DHCP server, what it does. And before you install, you should note that you should configure at least one static IP address on this computer. That means you need a static IP address for your servers, all your servers. Then before you install DHCP, you should plan your subnets, scopes and exclusions. Store the plan in safe place for later reference. So because you are going to configure the DHCP server, then you have to plan your subnets, that what subnets you are going to use, what IP addresses you are going to use, what will be your scope. Scope means the range of IP addresses you want to provide, and what exclusion you want to do. Exclusion, that means what IP address you don't want this DHCP server to provide. So you have to design your plan first, then you go and install it and configure it. So we are going to configure it, and this is going to be install the DHCP server role, and with the feature, as a feature it is going to install the administrative tools. Now I will say restart if it is required. Now we can do it from the PowerShell also. So if we want, then we can see here PowerShell command. Let's say I will show you that it is on desktop now. It is an XML file. This is an XML file with this configuration, with the configuration what we have selected. So we can use this configuration file for installing the same features with the PowerShell command. If you hover the mouse there, you can see the PowerShell command. It is saying install Windows features. So that command will use to install the feature with the same configuration which we have selected. So I can go with this. I will install it here. So it is going to take a little time. Then after installation, it will ask us to do the post installation task. Okay, now it is finished, and after finishing this installation, what it is saying here, complete the DHCP configuration. This is the post installation. So after the configuration of, after the installing of this role feature, we have to configure it. That is what the post installation task. And this post installation task, that means what we have to do, we have to create two groups, and then security groups. Then also we have to authorize this server in Active Directory. So we can start the post configuration from here, or if you close this, then you can see this exclamatory sign, and it will remain there until you configure it. So when you can click on it, this notification, you can see the post configuration information here. Complete the DHCP configuration. So when you click here, it will open this widget. So now what it is going to do, it is going to do the following steps. First, it is creating the following security groups. For delegation of DHCP server administration, the two groups are DHCP administrators and DHCP users. So these two groups will be used to provide the delegation for the administration. That means if we want to provide some user administration rights on DHCP server, then we will add that user into this group. And if we want to provide some user only read-only rights on DHCP servers, then for monitoring it, we can add that user into DHCP users. Then the next step it is going to do is to authorize the DHCP server on target computer if domain joined. So if this computer is the domain joined, then it is going to authorize this computer under the domain. So because this computer is a member of the domain, so it is going to be authorized in the domain. And this is two groups it will create. Now we can check in Active Directory, these two groups are not there. Okay, now if you check the Active Directory here, I'll show you this. In Active Directory, users and computers, when you go to this users tab, you can see all these groups here, but there is no group for DHCP here. There is no group related to DHCP, but when we do the post installation task there in the widget, when we finish the widget, it will create those two groups here. So let's do that now. Now we are going to do the post installation things. Next, now it is asking that which user's credential you want to use to do this post installation thing. So you have option to choose the credential for the user, specific user. Right now it is using the same user which user we are logged in. So I am logged in as a user admin. I am logged in as a administrator, and this is not the administrator of the local machine, it is the administrator of the domain. So it has all the permissions to do this, to authorize the DHCP server in Active Directory. So I can do this with this credential. If suppose you are logged in with the another user account and you want to do this, then you can specify the user account here. You can specify the user account which you want to use to authorize this DHCP server. Then if you don't want to authorize it, then you can skip the process. You can skip authorization. If suppose there is no Active Directory services available, we are configuring it as a standalone DHCP server, then we can skip this authorization. But right now we are a member of this domain and we are logged in as a domain administrator, so we can do we can use this account and we can make this server authorized. So we can do the authorization. So I will select commit. Now it has done the process, it has completed this installation configuration, post installation configuration. It says that three security groups are created, and please restart the DHCP server services on the target computer for the security groups to be effective, and DHCP's authorized DHCP server is also done. So after doing the post installation task, we have to restart the DHCP server so that these groups which is created on the Active Directory will get effect. So I will close here and then I will do the restart here, and then we can check the Active Directory services that two groups are created or not. So I am restarting it and then I am going to go to Active Directory services. So our DHCP server is restarting. Here in Active Directory services, if you check, there is no group related to DHCP here, but I will refresh it here. Now I will check again, and then after refreshing, we can see that DHCP server those groups, but our server is still restarting DHCP server. So when after it is restarted, we can see those groups. Now our DHCP server is started here, and we have DHCP services. DHCP services are installed. So now we can configure our DHCP services. We can configure our DHCP server to give the IP addresses to the clients. So after completing the installation of role and doing the post installation task, next thing is to configure the allocating and managing the IPv4 addresses with DHCP. So you must create the scopes to define the network information that will be distributed to the client. So first we have to create the scope, and that scope which is going to distribute the IP addresses to the clients. So scope must contain what the scope will have. The scope will have the range of the IP addresses which we want to distribute. So whatever the range of IP addresses we are having and we want to provide the IP addresses or distribute the IP addresses, we have to give it into the scope. We have to configure it under the scope. Then we have to provide the subnet. Based on the IP address configuration or subnetting we have done, we have to provide the proper subnet for it. Then all we have to configure the lease duration. What will be the lease duration for the IP allocation? So when the IP address will be allocated, so what will be the lease duration? These all things and more we will configure it under the scope. Then a scope might contain, that means these are the must things like the range of the IP addresses, subnet mask and the lease duration. This is the must configuration for the scope. And then scope can also contain the default gateway addresses. Now because remember we are configuring the IP addresses through the DHCP servers, so we also configure the gateway, because if we have a gateway in our network, so all the machines in the network must know the address of that gateway. That gateway, because they want to go out of this network, they can go out of the network, so they can go through the gateway router, so they should know the gateway address. And because we are configuring the IP addresses automatically from DHCP, so it is the job of DHCP to provide the gateway address, and same as for the DNS. So DNS server and suffix for the domain, it also must be provided by the DHCP, because automatically it is configuring the IP addresses. Now all the clients in the domain must know the DNS server IP addresses, so we have to configure the DHCP DNS server IP addresses and suffix with the DHCP, and that we have to add it into the scope. Then also some other network options can also be under the scope. Now if IP addresses can be reserved based on the MAC addresses of the client network interface, we can also do one more thing. We can reserve some IP addresses for some specific client also with the help of MAC addresses. I will show you how we can do that. But first we have to create the scope. So for configuring the DHCP options, now under the scope we can configure different options like the router address, DNS domain name and also DNS server. So for configuring the scopes DHCP options, first are the values for the common configuration data can be applied to the server, scope class and the reservation level, and these are the common options for the scope. These are like router addresses, domain names and also DNS server addresses. So how we can configure the scope? We have to go to DHCP server, and from the tools we have this DHCP management console. Now when you open the management console, you will see your server name there. So this is the server we have configured for the DHCP and we have authorized it. And under the DHCP server name, you will see these two options, IPv4 and IPv6. So as we know that now IPv6 is also supported, so we can create a scope and configuration for IPv6 also, and also we can create it for IPv4. So when you open this IPv4, you see these options here. We have server options folder, we have policy and filter. But first I have to create the scope. So I will right click on this IPv4 and then I will select new scope. Now when you select the new scope, this wizard will open and we'll go with this wizard. So first we have to name the scope, whatever the name you want, with the description so that you know what you created. So this scope is for my accounts department. So I will add the description accordingly, and then I will go next. Now here we have to decide the range of IP addresses. So we have to decide the available range we have to provide to distribute to the clients. So I will give the range like 192.168.0. Starting from 200 to 192.168.0. I will go for 254, the end of the network. Now here we have to decide the subnet mask. Now because I am using the class C addresses, it is taking the default subnet mask by default 24-bit, and in this 255.255.255.0. So it is the default subnet mask for the class C. But if we have done the subnetting, then we can change accordingly. Like if I have done the subnetting, I have enabled extra 2 bits, so I can go 24 or 26, and 26 means it will become 255.255.255.192. If you have enabled another bits, then accordingly it will change the subnet mask. So you can decide what is the subnet for your department or for your subnet. So you can decide the subnet mask. If it is not subnetted, then you can go for the default, and if it is subnetted, then you can go for the subnetted mask. Now after deciding the range and the subnet mask, we can go next. Now here we can set the exclusion. Exclusion, that means those IP addresses which we don't want to give automatically. For example, I have given the range here from 192.168.0.200. Now 200 IP, this first IP is this DHCP server's domain controller's IP. Now this first IP is actually of domain controller, which we have already used statically. Then the second IP, like 192.168.0.201, it is of this DHCP server itself, this IP. Now these IPs are what statically we have configured. So like this, we may have other machines also where we have configured static IP addresses within the same range, because we have only one range of network, we have only one class C range, and we have used some addresses statically. So we have configured some servers, and those servers need these static IP addresses. So we have already configured them. Now we don't want to use them for DHCP server, because DHCP server will do what? It can give the IP address, same IP address to any machine. If someone asks for that IP, it will give that IP. Now when the client try to use that IP, it will say that okay, the IP is already existed. So we can do what? We can remove those some of the IP addresses which we have already used statically. So we can remove those IP addresses from here. So for example, I will remove the IP addresses which I have already used statically, that is 200, then 201, 204, 201, 202, 203, 205. These IP addresses I have already used. So I will say I want to exclude the IP addresses from this starting range to 205. So this range IP, these IP addresses, it will not give to any client. If suppose this is the range, continuous range 200 to 205. Now in the middle also, if suppose I have used some IP address, like I have already used 192.168.0.50 250. So I can remove that IP also. So for that I can do like 192.168.250 is starting, and because it is a single IP, so end will be the same also. So this single IP also I have already used. So I'm excluding those IP addresses from DHCP, and I'm not saying I'm telling the DHCP server that don't distribute these IP addresses to any client. Don't give these IP addresses to any client. Other than that, you can give any IP addresses. You can give any IP addresses within the range. So I have removed 200 to 205. So the starting IP for the DHCP server, it will give 206. and when it reaches 249, then this 250 will not be given to anyone, directly 251 will be given to anyone. So this is what the exclusion. Then next you have to decide the lease duration. If you don't want to exclude, then it is not necessary, it is not compulsory to use the exclusion. This is we use when we have already used some of the IP addresses from the range, so we can exclude them. But this is compulsory, you have to provide the lease duration. By default it is 8 days, but we can reduce it, we can increase it, we can reduce it to 1 day, we can reduce it in hours or also in minutes also. This is the default one. We can change it to hours, we can change it to minutes only, we can change it to days also, we can increase it, we can decrease it. It is giving the IP addresses for the 8 days lease period. So we want, then we can change accordingly. Like for example, I will reduce it to 1 day. So every day user have to renew the IP address. The client machine need to renew the IP addresses. Then it is asking for the configuration of DHCP options. DHCP options like the configuration of the router address, DNS address, DNS domain name, and if the Win server is there or not. So we can configure it right now, and also we can configure it after finishing the configuration. If you don't want, then you can say no, and after finishing the visit you can configure these extra options also. But I want to configure it right now, so I will go yes, I want to configure it now. So next it says what is the router address. Router, that is the gateway address. So the router address is in our network is this. So I will add that. Remember, you have to give the IP address and then you have to add it. And if you have multiple, then you can add multiple, but gateway always be the one. You don't have multiple gateways. Gateways always be the one. Next you have to give the domain name, that is already given here. Why? Because we are already in the member of the domain, so domain is already selected here, domain name, and then all the DNS server is also already selected here. These DNS servers information is coming from domain controller, so it is already added. And if we have any other DNS server or the name IP address we want to add, then we can give the server name here, or we can give the IP address here, and then we can press add. So it will add that server address also, that DNS server address also. So it is already added. If it is not added, then we can add it here. We can add the domain name manually, we can add the domain DNS server name or DNS server IP, and then we can add it here. Now this is already added, so we can go next. Now here it will add that Win server. Now Win server is not used nowadays. Nowadays we don't use Win server. Win server is actually same as DNS server. It uses to resolve the names, but it was used in old machine in the old versions of Windows. Now everyone uses DNS server. Nobody uses the Win server, but still it is giving the options. Why it is giving the options? Because if suppose in some old organization they have used some application, they are using some application which was designed on this Win configuration, so they need Win server for it. So if they need Win server, then they configure the Win server also, and then when they configure the Win servers, then they have to provide the information for the Win server to all the clients. So we can add the Win server IP here, and then DHCP server will provide the information to all the clients. But right now we don't have any Win server, so we will not add any IP addresses here. Now it says, do you want to activate this scope? Now when you activate this scope, it will start providing the IP addresses and it will start accepting the discover packets, DHCP discover request. So if you don't activate, then it will not accept the DHCP discover request. When the client send the request DHCP discover packet to get the IP addresses, this server will not respond if it is not active, if it is not having any active scope. And if it is having the active scope, then it will respond for the DHCP discover packet. Now we can activate the scope because we have already authorized the server. If we have not authorized the server, then we can do what? We can we will select no, not activate the scope, I will activate it later. So we can activate it later also after authorizing the server. But we have already authorized the server, so we can activate it right now. And finish. And now we can see it is activated here. If you select this, you can see this is the scope and this is right now activated. And if it is not activated, then you can right click on it and you have to first open it, and then you can right click on it and then you can select activate from here. Right now it is saying deactivate because it is already activated, and if it is not activated, then you will see the option activate. So you can activate it from here. Then if your server is not authorized, then you can right click on server and you will get the option to authorize it. It is already authorized, so we don't have to do the authorization again. Now the scope is created and we can see the scope options here. So what we have configured the pool of addresses, the range of addresses here. So this is the range of addresses. This is the range from 192.168.0.200 to 192.168.0.254. This is the total range, but from this range I have excluded this range. From 200 to 205 I have excluded. So the range, the IP address will start from 206. Then in the middle I have removed one more IP address, that is 250. So I have excluded this IP also. So it is also, the server will not give this IP to any client, not these IPs and also not this IP. Whatever the IP available, it will give this IP to anyone who will ask. Right now when you check here, so there is no lease, so it is not given any IP to anyone. Nobody has asked for the IP addresses, so it has not given. Now here you will see the reservation. Reservation is not configured right now, but we will configure it. Now here we can see the scope options, the options which we have configured. We have selected the router addresses, we have selected the DNS servers, and also we have configured the domain name. We have not configured the Win server, but we have configured the DNS server and also the DNS domain name. So these are the options, configuration options of DHCP. Then we have the policies here. Policies we have not configured. If you want, then we can configure it. There are other options also there. This is server option here. Now here also we can configure the server options, the same server options which we have configured here. Now this server option is different. This server option is out of the scope. You can see it is actually out of the scope. This server options is out of the scope, but they are same. If suppose you want to add some more options here, right now we have already added this router, DNS server and domain name. If you want to add more, then you can right click here and go for configuration of options. Here we have already added the server address. We can add the time server. If we have the time server here which is providing or synchronizing the time, so we can add that. Here we can add the server name here. Let's say for example I am saying server 1. I can resolve the IP address. This is the IP address of that server and I can add it here. So I am adding this. Then there are more options available like name servers. Name servers are the DNS servers. Then DNS server is already there. You can add the log server, cookie server, LP server, impress server, resource location server, host name. You can add the boot file size, married dump, DNS domain name we have already added, swap server, root path, extension path, IP layer forwarding. According to these options the values will change. Like this is asking for the path, this is also asking for the path. It is not asking for the IP address. This option is asking for the value, disable or enable. So there are multiple options and we can select those options and we can just add the value there and then we can apply it. Then there is some advanced options are also, like these are the standard options of DHCP. You can go for Microsoft specific options. you can go for the Windows 2000 old version options. Then you can go for Windows 98 options. Now there is none, but we have that other options. So whatever the option you add, you can press OK. Those options will come here. Like I have added the time server here. Then the same options we have here also. This is server options and this is scope options. Server options are also same. If you go to configure it, you will see the same options. You can add the router address here. That is 192.168.0.1. So I have added the router address, same as I can add the DNS server address. I can add the domain name also. So if we add it there, so these scope options and server options are the same. These options are additional. We want to configure it, then we can configure it. Now the only difference between this server options and the scope option is that this option is only related to this scope. That means you can see it is under the scope. That will only give the these options will come with this scope only. Now if we create another scope, we can create multiple scopes in DHCP servers, and that scope can have a different scope options. It can have a different router, it can have a different time server, DNS and domain name. So that will be the scope for the scope option for that particular scope. Now this server option is actually the server options. That means here we will add the common options which is common for all the scopes. For example, we have 4 scopes here. We have configured 4 scopes. For example, this is our DHCP server, and maybe this DHCP server in our network we have different subnets. We have done the subnetting. This is our subnet 1, this is our subnet 2, and this is our subnet 3. Now our DHCP server is connected to this subnet also. Remember, for that it is using different network adapter. For this network it is using the different network adapter, and for this network it is using different network adapter. Now it is connected to different subnets. So we can do what? We can create a scope for this subnet, separate scope. Then we can create the separate scope for this subnet. Then we can create the separate scope for this subnet. That means in the same DHCP server we have 3 scopes, scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3. Now in this scope we have a different DNS server, in this scope we have different DNS server, in this scope we have different DNS server. So we can configure the scope options for this scope and this scope and this scope separately, because we have different DNS server, different time server, and maybe we have different router also. So suppose we have different route, because these are different subnets, so they will get the different router address. So these scopes having different router address, these scopes are having different router address, and these scopes are having the different router address. So those options we will configure under the scope options. Now for example, we are having a common DNS server for everyone. For everyone we have a common DNS server. Then that option we will configure in the server scope. So that common option will be same for all the scopes. That means that DNS server option we configured for the scope. Like for example, the domain name. These are the different subnets, but they are under the same domain and they are having the same DNS server. So we can configure the DNS server name and DNS server IP and also the DNS domain name in the directly in the server option, and that server option the configuration of that server option will be same for every scope, no matter how many scopes we have. But the scope option is separate for the scope. Like each scope is having their own router address, so they are having their own router address. They are separate, but they are having the common configuration. So the common configuration comes from the server configuration, server scope. So in the server scope, because it is out of the scope, that will be same for everyone, and the scope option will only be for that scope. It will not allow it will not apply to the other scope. but the option which we configure in the server scope, server options, those options will be configured for every scope, and it will be common for all the scopes. So as we configure something in the server options, so it will be common for all the scopes if we have multiple scopes, and the scope options will only available for that particular scope, and it will only allow available for that particular scope. Now we have configured the scope, and the scope is already active. Now it is ready to give the IP addresses to the client. Now we'll see how it will get the IP address and what IP address it will give. So let's see in the other member server. We will start the other member server and see how it get the IP address. Okay, so this is our another member server, server 3. Now this one is also in the domain, in the same domain, but right now it is on static IP addresses. So I will change it to get the IP address from DHCP. So I will go to here under the configuration, and we have to go to the adapter setting, go to the properties, IPv4 properties. Now this is using the static IP. I will say use the dynamic IP, automatic IP address, and I will press OK, and then I will press OK from here. Now when I press OK here, it will start searching for the DHCP server, and the DORA process is started here, and it is trying to get the IP address from the DHCP server. And now it has got the IP address here. Now what it got here, we can check the status here, and under the detail we can see what IP address it has got is 192.168.207 after the reservation, after the exclusion, what we have excluded some range, and after the exclusion it is getting this IP address. Then this is the subnet mask it gets, and it is getting the IP address now, and it is going to expire tomorrow. You can see this is the least obtained, and this is least expire. It is going to expire tomorrow. This is 27 July 1323, and on 28th July 1323 it is going to be expired. And the gateway address it is getting the DHCP address, because now it knows the DHCP server IP address. Then it is getting these DNS addresses. So these DNS addresses it is getting from all these things, it is getting from DHCP server. So now this server is getting the IP address from DHCP. Now when you refresh it here, you will see that IP address assigned by DHCP. So the IP address is coming from that DHCP server. Now when we go to that DHCP server, and in that DHCP server, when we check the address leases, now here we will see the address of that name of that server. Now here we can see the server name is this, the IP address which is leased is 192.168.0.207. It is leased, and it has leased to this server 3, and this is the lease expiration. So the information for that lease is showing here. So this is the information, this is the leased IP address. Now one more thing we can do is to reserve some IP addresses. We can create the reservation. Now what is the reservation and what is the use for this reservation? Remember, the IP address is given through the DHCP is on lease, and when the lease period expires, it has to renew the IP addresses. Now if suppose at the time of the expiration, if the machine was not running, remember, if the machine is not running, the machine which is getting this IP address, for example this server 3 is not running tomorrow it was shut down on this time, so it cannot renew the IP address. Now if that time somebody else wants the IP address, so this IP address will be free, and this IP address will be given to that other machine. Now when this machine comes up, and then when it wants to get the IP address, it will get another IP address than this, so the IP address will change. So in a big network, the IP address for the machines will change. This IP address is with this server, after tomorrow this IP address will be for the other server. This server will get something else some other IP addresses. Now if suppose we have these some machines which is important for us, and we don't want to change the IP address for that machine. For example, there is a printer there, and we don't want to change the printer IP address every time. because everyone knows that IP address and everyone using that IP address, so we can't change it every time. So we want to use a same IP address every time. Now we can do that by using the static IP address, or we can create the reservation for that IP address. We can create the reservation based on the MAC address. Now remember the DORA process. When the client send the DHCP discover packet to get the IP address, they don't have any information into that. That means the client does not have any IP address, the client does not have any network information. Only the information the client has is the MAC address. So when the request goes to the server, it goes with the MAC address of the client. So DHCP server knows that this is the MAC address of the client. Now when the DHCP server knows the MAC address of the client, then what it can do? It can use that MAC address to create the reservation. Create the reservation, that means we should know the MAC address of this server 3. So we can do what? We can create the reservation for it. And then what we can do, we can set the reservation that if this MAC address wants to get the IP address, so always give this particular IP address. So whenever that MAC address machine asks for the IP address to DHCP server, it will always get the same IP address, whatever we configured here. Now in this reservation, we can also configure the different scope options. Now how we can configure the reservation? For that we need a MAC address of the other system. Now to get the MAC address, what we can do? We can ping that machine. Now once we do the communication to the machine, we can get the MAC address from the ARP table. Now I can get the MAC address. I have to go to that system, I have to check the IP information, and then in that I can get the MAC address of that system. But I can do it from here. When I do the communication to that system, it get the MAC address of that system also, and it stored it into ARP table. And under the ARP table I can see this is the IP address of that system and this is the MAC address of that system. So I can do what? I can use this MAC address to create the reservation. So for creating the reservation, I will right click on it, say new reservation, and here I have to give a name for the reservation. Like I will say reservation for server 3. Then this is the IP address which I want to give to that system. Let's say I want to give that system 240. That means whenever that server 3 wants to get the IP address, it will always get 240. And here I have to put the MAC address of that system. And we can put any other description also. Now what kind of IP address it will get? It will get the DHCP or boot P. I will say both. Boot P is for the booting IP, like it is used to boot the system, and DHCP is the normal IP address, but now we can use it both. So I will say add OK. Then I can make another reservation. I don't want, so I will close it. And this is the reservation I have. We can open this and we can see the reservation. Now it is getting the options from this scope option. It is getting the same scope options here. But we can change it. We can change these scope options. Configure options. We can change the different option for the particular reservation. But I'm not changing it. I will use it the same options here. So I can add more options here. The same options, these options are coming from the scope options, but I can change it. I can add more options, but I'm not changing it. I'm not adding any other option. Now this is reservation. Now anytime that server 3 wants the IP address, it will get only this IP address. Now let's see, we will check it. Right now it is having this IP address already, and this is the reservation we have done. So this IP is already there. It is reserved for, it is already given to the system, and it will remain for tomorrow. But I will do what? I will renew it. So I will go to server 3. And for renewing the IP address, what we can do, we can only we can only disable and enable the interface. It will do the job. Or we can do it from the CMD command. We can use ipconfig release command. This command will do release all the dynamic IP addresses from our interfaces, and then we can do renew, and it will renew all the IP address. It will try to renew the IP address. Now when it will try to renew, so it will get the reservation IP, the IP which we have reserved for this machine. So it is trying to renew, and it will get the same IP which we have reserved. Now it has renewed the IP address, and what we are getting here is 192.168.0.240. So this is the reservation we have done. So we have configured for this system. So always this system, whenever it asks for the IP address, it will get only this IP address. So this is what the reservation we have, and this is how we can configure the reservation. We can check it graphically also. We can see here, no, not diagnosed. Check the status, and now we can see it is getting this 240, which is we have reserved for this system. So when you refresh it, you can see now this IP is reserved and it is getting reservation lease, and it is saying what lease expiration is not there because it is reservation. It is not going to expire because we have it is coming from the lease, so it is not going to expire. So this is what the lease, we can create the reservation also. So what we have seen here, we have seen how we can configure the DHCP server to the post installation task. We have created the scope, and also we have done what? We have created the reservation, and then we have created the server options also. These options we have created with the configuration of scope, and after the scope also we can add some of the configuration options. Now the next thing is what? The DHCP relay agent. Now a DHCP relay agent listen for DHCP broadcast from DHCP clients and then relays them to a DHCP servers in a different subnet. Now remember, DHCP client sends the broadcast to get the IP address, and the DHCP server also do the broadcast to give the IP address to the client. Now the whole communication for giving the IP address done on the broadcast. Now the problem is that the broadcast is not transferred to the router. Now if suppose this client's in a subnet A and the other clients is in the subnet B, and these subnets are connected through the routers. Now routers can only pass the only pass the unicast. They will not pass the broadcast. The broadcast in subnet A will remain in subnet A. It will not go to subnet B. And the broadcast for subnet B will remain in subnet B. It will not go to subnet A. Now if suppose the DHCP server is located in subnet B and the clients are in subnet A, wants to get the IP address from the subnet B DHCP server. Now remember, the communication is broadcast. So if the clients do the broadcast here to get the IP addresses on this server which is located in subnet B, they cannot reach there because the router will not transfer the broadcast. The broadcast will remain in subnet A. It will not go to the subnet B to this DHCP server. Now for that we need what? DHCP relay agent. This one is actually a router. This job is done by the router. So we can configure the DHCP relay agent on the router itself, or also we can use our Windows Server machine as a router, and on that router we can configure the DHCP relay agent. But remember, it is not DHCP server here. This DHCP relay agent, it is actually acting as a router for our network, and that is also doing the DHCP relay. Now this thing can be done by the router also. So the router which is connecting these two networks, that router will work as a DHCP relay agent. Or we can use our Windows machine also as a relay agent if we configure this machine as a router. So what this relay agent do? It will do what? When the clients from the subnet 1 sends the broadcast. So what happened? The broadcast will remain in the client subnet A. So the relay agent will do what? It will take the broadcast and send the broadcast to subnet B as a unicast. It will send it as a unicast to subnet B, and then when it reaches the subnet B, it reaches the DHCP server as a unicast. Now the DHCP server will respond with the offer, and that will also go as a unicast, not as a broadcast, to the DHCP relay agent. And then the relay agent do what? It will do the broadcast to send the offer to the clients. Then the whole process will work like this. The discover packet will go as a broadcast, then it will go through the unicast, through the relay agent as a unicast to the DHCP server, and then the DHCP server respond as a unicast to relay agent, and the relay agent send the broadcast to the clients for the offer. Then for the offer, for the request, for the acknowledgement. So completing the whole process like this, and then the clients will get the IP address from the DHCP server of the subnet B. So for doing this, in this scenario where the clients are in subnet A and the DHCP server is subnet B, and they are connected through the router, so routers will not pass the broadcast. We need the relay agent, and the relay agent is also a same router. So router, either we are using the Cisco routers, they can work as a relay agent for our clients in subnet A, or either we are using the Windows server as a router, so that can also act as a relay agent for our subnet B, subnet A clients. So basically what we need is a router to configure the DHCP relay agent. So today what we have seen is this: configuring what is DHCP server, what is the benefits of DHCP server, and how we can configure the DHCP server role in our Windows Server 2016, how we can configure the DHCP scope with the configuration option, and how it provides the IP address to the client, and what we can configure the reservation also. And also we have we can use the DHCP relay agent that can be use to configure the IP address from the different subnet if the DHCP server is located under the different subnets.